Hi again. It is Georgia and Tennessee week. This is the one on the calendar, I think, that everybody had already pointed to way before we even started playing football. Everybody was talking about this one. I don't know if it's worked out the way that everybody thought it would. It has on one side, probably, maybe not the other, but we're still going to play this game, and it's going to be a barn burner on Saturday, 3:30 in Knoxville for unbeaten and once again number one ranked Georgia in the CFP poll against 7-3 Tennessee team. As the Volunteers are riding a 14-game home winning streak, so they've got some things going in their favor at their home building. Certainly, Georgia has it all going in its favor, home and away. The Bulldogs still playing outstanding football. Russ Tanner, D.J. Shockley are here to discuss the game this week and some other stuff. And we're going to Rocky Top, as they like to say. Well, Russ is in Rock Eagle today. He's in Rock Eagle, Georgia today. So, Russ,
chaperoning a sixth grade school field trip. So y'all put me on the church prayer list tonight if you don't mind.
Prayers up, buddy. You guys doing good this week?
Yep.
Yeah, man, doing good.
Go ahead, Shock.
Doing good, man. Excited about this week. Obviously, last week was a big time win. I think it kind of solidified Georgia's thoughts and minds of a lot of people around the country. I don't know why, but I guess they had to see it again. And yeah, all is good though, man. And Russ, like I said, praying for you, brother.
Hey, it's about to get on. Just like the Dogs this week, man. We got to be locked in and focused down here. And going up to Rocky Top, the Dogs got to lock in, man. It was last week was the signature win for this team so far, right? Top 10 matchup, Lane Kiffin coming in town, under the lights, prime time. The eyes of the college football world was on us, and the Dogs answered the bell like they haven't done all season long. But it's a different animal this week. Going into Sanford Stadium, which is now a rocking environment, a hard place for other teams to play, is a lot different than going to Neyland Stadium. And that is a whole lot better in front of their home crowd. The noise is on their side. So Dogs got their work cut out for them. Very got something really good right now.
Shock, why is Georgia's offense so successful? I don't want to say unstoppable, but it's pretty close to that. It seems that Georgia's offense can, for the most part, do what it wants to do.
Yeah, and I think it starts obviously with the quarterback because he's got everything operating in the best way that this offense can operate. And then when I say that, because you really got a two-way goal right now. We saw Kendall Milton have a big-time game last week, over 100 yards rushing. We've seen Dejon do it a couple times this year. And then you can throw the football. I was talking to Kirby this week. I said, man, how are you liking your balance? And he said, balance depends on situation. I said, well, right now, you're averaging 34 rushing attempts a game, and you're averaging 34 pass attempts a game. So I said, through 10 games, that seems pretty balanced to me. So I think that's kind of been a big part of it is Georgia's been able to run the football when they needed to, and then they've been able to throw it as well and convert. And they got a quarterback that's taking care of the football. You got an offensive line that loves to kind of end the game on their backs. You got dudes on the outside making plays, every receiver and tight end, and it's so many different guys that you can count on every single week that it's just one of those things that's special to watch right now. And you can see Coach Bobo he's found a really good groove with this group of guys on offense.
Russ, the offensive line really seemed enmeshed against Ole Miss, and you got healthy offensive line too, which is an enormous help. And you had Mims, and you had Micah Morris, and you had Fairchild, and then you had the other guys in the rotation. And that 7-man offensive line that went through that game was pretty impressive.
This group of guys for Georgia right now, they finally figured it out as far as how they play together. And they've shown week in and week out that under these Kirby coach teams, if you get to the fourth quarter as an opposing team and you don't have a big lead or you're not rolling on Georgia, you're in trouble. And that has to do with the fact that they rotate these offensive linemen in. So when the fourth quarter rolls around, they are mashing people out of the way. Kendall Milton had a career game last week. I think he had 9 carries. He was getting 7 or 8 yards before anybody ever got close to touching him. The only reason Carson Beck had grass stains on his jersey because he slid running the ball 10 15 yards downfield. He literally didn't get touched all game. Carson Beck's playing at an elite level. Shock mentioned the tools he's hitting. Captain America, Brock Bowers is back. But in the SEC, everything rises and falls on the lines of scrimmage. And right now, this Georgia offensive line has finally figured it out to look elite, which they had the last few weeks.
I didn't realize until after the game, we're doing our post-game wrap-up. We had 0 lost yardage plays, and I didn't realize that until after the game. I mean, that's a phenomenal stat where you have, and you were playing a team that was kind of known for that defensively, the tackles for loss and sacks and all of that, and Georgia had 0 last week against Ole Miss.
Yeah, and that's something that's weird. I mean, you don't never ever hear that happening, really. There's always one guy who may bust, or there may be a slip in the backfield, or quarterback falls down, or you throw a pass behind the line of scrimmage and it's a net. I mean, that's a great stat there. No 0 yardage plays, which is crazy in a ball game playing against a team like Ole Miss, like you mentioned, who came in with 60-something, I think, tackles for loss coming into the game. So yeah, that's pretty impressive.
And my wife and I, we went to the game last week and we were talking, and my wife, she knows football now, but she likes to ask good football questions now, just trying to really understand the game. And I think it has to do with the fact that we've got sons that play football, and she wants to be a mom that can have the conversation with them. So we're talking about kind of what's going on in the game and what Georgia's doing well. And about the second quarter, I noticed something. I realized, and I told her, she's like, that makes so much sense. Every time in that game, Georgia had a second down, it was 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, maybe 2nd and 4. Shock, as a play caller, as an offense, if you line up with 2nd and 2, what does that do for your playbook? What does that do for what you can call?
Wide open. That's a good call because, I mean, winning first down has always been the number one, I think, topic that Kirby talks about. And, Russ, that's a good point, man. You're in 2nd, 3, or 4, that playbook is wide open for Bobo.
Yep, give him all the credit in the world. You become a much better play caller when you can throw a bomb, you can throw a screen, you can run power. When the situation allows for any play that you have in your repertoire to be called, it makes it so hard for a defense to be aggressive and to attack and to dictate what you're doing. If defenses get you behind the sticks, I mean, they get a lost yardage play, they get you in 2nd and 13, 3rd and 12, whatever it may be, you're really limited with what you can run on offense. You got to throw the ball. And then they can pin their ears back. They can bring exotic blitzes. They can get after you, make it confusing. When you're getting 7 or 8 yards on first down, you dictate what the defense has to do. And Bobo has done that again, we used the same word we used earlier, at an elite level, especially against that Ole Miss team that was very, very good coming in.
And just to add one more thing to this, Scott, that Russ just mentioned, when you're doing good on first down now, if you have a bad play, just think about what Georgia's defense did to Ole Miss. Those first 2 drives on schedule, 1st and 2nd down on schedule. They move the football down the field, boom, boom, go score. Here we go in the track meet. That 3rd drive, if you remember, their first play was a negative yardage play. They put them behind, maybe a sack. I don't know what it was. Something happened on that 3rd play, and here you go. And after that, it was like downhill for Ole Miss after that, and they could never recover. So negative yardage plays on first down usually always just dooms a series.
Mm-hmm.
Can you be more prone to that in the tempo-based offense that Tennessee runs? Tell me about playing tempo-type football that Tennessee offensively likes to do.
The interesting thing about it is they've played a bunch of teams already this year that do some of that tempo. And I know Kirby's talked about they go a little bit faster than Ole Miss, or they may go faster than other teams. But I think Georgia has had enough practice at it that they can just line up and go play. And that's the difference between a lot of other teams, that these, teams that have tempo go play, is somewhere they're better than a lot of the guys on that defense side of the ball. Whether it's up front, maybe it's outside, and you can find wins. But Georgia has a defense that, you look across the board, you're not going to outrun anybody east and west. You got dudes on the back end who are just as experienced and can get lined up and go play man coverage if you need to. And you don't have to ask them to do a lot of different things on defense. So even when a team does go fast, Georgia has been able to adapt to it and understand, like, hey, we got good players. Let's just let our players line up and go play and see what happens.
Yep. And, and Georgia's really figured out this year as well. It cracks me up. I love watching it. if another team is trying to go tempo and subs on us, you will never see a slower jog to the sideline than the Georgia defensive linemen do. Because when somebody subs, they've got to give the offense time. So with the pace that Ole Miss goes, the pace that Tennessee goes, they can't go 8 or 10 plays down the field. The guys the receivers can't do it. They can't sprint 20 yards down the field, sprint back, snap again. They've got a sub. So Georgia does a good job of legally slowing that team down when they get an opportunity. Now, this Tennessee team, mentioned it earlier, their tempo is a lot better when they're in Neyland Stadium. When they can communicate clearly and the quarterback can just yell what they're doing. They don't have to get all the signs and signal it and do the relays here and there. They can just say it. They go really fast. But you mentioned it, Scott. I think it's where you started the question. Are you more prone to negative plays? Yes, because those coaches a lot of times are just calling the next thing on the sheet, calling the next thing on the sheet. They're not necessarily looking at the situation that's happening and saying, all right, we've got them in 3rd and 2. We like this, this, and this. All right, let's go this play. It's run the play, run the play, run the play, run the play. And if they mess up one time, they're in a negative spot. And Georgia has shown this year that if a team gets behind the sticks and they're not consistently moving the chains, getting positive yardage, they struggle against this Georgia defense that is so experienced, especially in the secondary.
What do you guys remember most about playing in Knoxville, playing a game there? What jumps out to you?
My game, obviously, Shock and I were on the field for the Hobnail Boot game in 2001. So that was just we weren't playing, we redshirted. But that was a great game to be a part of and watch. But for me, I look in 2003. That was my favorite game that I probably ever got to play in. It was my first year as a starter. And it was the game, if you guys remember, Casey Clausen said he could beat Georgia one hand, tied behind his back. The first half was nip and tuck. They were going in at halftime trying to score, had a chance to take the lead on us. And Pollock makes an unbelievable play, comes through the line, knocks the ball loose, and Sean Jones scoops it and goes 90-some-odd yards to the house. And we took the lead going into halftime. And we came out in the second half of that football game, and we decided as an offense that we were going to try to take their stinking orange souls. We were going to run the ball down their throat and make them like it. And we ended up winning the game, I think, like 41-13 or something like that. And as an offensive lineman, that was probably my favorite game I ever got to play in. So that 2003 game to me was really special.
Yeah, 2003 was fun. I remember that one, man. Obviously, a lot of great memories going there. We actually, just started the trend there of, beating Tennessee there, which obviously we never did in a long time. So obviously the Hobnail Blue game was fun to be there and be a part of that and watch that happen. And I think when we went back our last year, Russ, in 2005 was pretty fun too. Really tight game. Flowers has a big old, punt return for a touchdown. I mean, it was a night game. It was crazy. So those Tennessee games were always fun. They were always tight and always had a lot of thing behind them as far as where you're going to go with your season.
Why do you think Georgia has had success on the road lately? These streaks are crazy. 15 in a row away from Athens. That includes the neutral fields, neutral sites. 13 straight true road wins. In this league, that's almost unheard of. But Georgia's doing everything that's unheard of right now. What's the secret to going on the road and blocking out the atmosphere and playing the way you want to play?
Scott, I don't even really think it's a secret, man. I think it's easy to point to things like there's a heightened focus on the road. I think if you're a huge competitor, at the end of the day, you kind of like being on the road with everybody against you. And it kind of fuels you even more and it heightens that focus you have going in. For this team now, when I get the chance to be around, Kirby always talks about humility is always 1 week away. I know he said that to you 1,000 times, Scott, and he absolutely says the same thing to his players day in and day out. He says it before a game. He says it at halftime. Like, he makes sure these guys are so focused on the here and now, they can't focus on anything else. Like, they're not even thinking about next week. They can't even think about what happened last week because what here and now matters the most. And I think that's why ultimately, whether they're at home or away, they have the same focus. The attitude is the same because of how their coach just ingrains it in their brain.
Yeah, it's the same concept of the Jordan flu. Things are stacked up against you, and all you can do is focus on the job at hand, and you have unbelievable performances. We saw Jordan do that, right? And it's the same general mentality. You got to lock in. style places, and Shock mentioned it. Like, we love going to places that were hostile. We love fans giving us the bird, screaming at us, doing all that stuff, because it gives you a you against the world mentality. And I think the thing that with this Georgia team is when you get extremely talented players who are exceptionally prepared and they don't care who gets the credit, it's a special thing in sports. And Georgia has the most talented roster in college football. There's 2 or 3 right there with them. The level of preparation that you see every week from this coaching staff to the leaders on this team, and then how unselfish the mark of this team is going to be their unselfishness. So you get players that are extremely talented, that prepare and don't care who gets the credit. That's a great recipe for winning on the road, specifically in the SEC.
Last thing for you guys today. We heard Kirby this week. Not real happy with the Tuesday practice this week. We haven't really heard that all season long. Is that a concern? Can that be a concern? You have a bad practice on your major practice day during the week in your preparation, or no?
I think Kirby knows exactly what he's doing. Shock has to be a little bit more diplomatic because he has to interview Kirby at the end of halves and all that. But sometimes you worry about your teams reading the press clippings, feeling pretty good about themselves. Hey, we smoked Ole Miss. And every now and then, coaches decide to bring you back down to earth by the things they say publicly. So rarely is a practice as good as a coach says, and rarely is as bad as it says. Sometimes coaches need a reason to put their foot in your rear end to make sure that your butt is locked in. And this is a team that's now starting to get the love nationally. There's no more disrespect. We're ranked number 1. Everybody now has Georgia is a team to beat. And when that starts happening, Kirby's going to make sure that the players know that humility's a week away, and that if Tennessee doesn't put a boot in their rear end, Kirby will. And I think that's kind of what's happened this week.
All right,
Scott,
good.
Isn't it funny, yeah. Scotty? Isn't it funny that he's trying to kind of mentally take them away from all the people that are patting him on the back in the public, and he makes a statement in the public because he knows they're listening to the public. It's just a great ploy, I think, by Kirby. Obviously, there could have been moments in the practice where it probably wasn't good, and I'm sure, by his standards, he wants everything the right way. But I think he's always trying to find ways to motivate these guys that maybe don't get it all the way during practice, that, hey, maybe he was talking about in that conversation. So it's funny. I think Kirby does a great job of finding ways to do that, whether, it's true or not. I think whatever you got to do to get your team ready to go, you do it.
27 straight overall, 10 in a row all this season. Dogs go for their 11th in a row in 2023 and try to extend the streaks and just maintain that dominance that they've had. Russ and Shock, thanks as always. Russ, enjoy Rock Eagle before we enjoy Rocky Top this weekend.
That's it. Go Dogs.
All right,
Go
Shock,
Dogs.
Russ, we'll see you guys. It's Georgia and Tennessee, 3:30 on Saturday from Knoxville, Tennessee. Our broadcast starts at 11:30 here on the Bulldog Sports Network. And as Russ said, go Dogs.